Good afternoon, Michael Shotnick, branch manager of Sierra Pacific Mortgage, here to talk to you about the topic of renting versus owning. I think it's generally common knowledge that owning a home is better, quote unquote better than renting. But what does that mean? And kind of on the numbers side of the real estate world, what I was hoping to do here is communicate the actual benefits of owning a home versus renting.
Okay, now we're going to dig into the numbers a little bit and get more specific about renting versus owning. I think where a lot of the online resources fall short is they don't put hard numbers to the scenario, and it's really just kind of a quick article about the benefits of owning versus renting. And what we're going to do here is really dig into it and talk about some implications. So what we're trying to do is an apples to apples comparison of staying in, say, a rental and using the money you would use for a down payment and applying it or sticking it in some sort of investment versus taking that same money and putting it down on a property as a down payment and owning a home. So in the Denver market, we're going to go through a few pages here. The average rent for a one bedroom is $1,204 a month. So that's where we're going to start is looking at kind of a one bedroom and how do we compare that as a rental to owning a home. So $1,204 a month. If you were to take that same dollar amount and apply it to a home purchase, it's going to get you about a $177,000 home. When you build in all the details, so assuming a conventional loan with 3% down, taxes, insurance, and building the mortgage insurance into the rate for a first-time home buyer program, it's going to translate into this kind of look over here. And what this is a comparison of owning in this top row to renting in this bottom row. So if you were to buy a home with this loan structure, 3 years in, you're better off if you rent and apply the money to investments. 5 years in is where that flips. You can see at the 5-year mark, you're a couple $1,000s ahead owning, which again is this top row, versus renting and investing those funds. And then 7 years out is really where you start to see the traction via amortization, paying the balance down, equity gains. Over time, you're really going to see the gains owning a home versus applying those down payment funds to a property. So if you're thinking short term with, again, this scenario, potentially renting. If you're thinking 5 years plus, probably at 4-year mark, but 5 years plus, then owning becomes the right choice. So let's go a little further. Let's look at a 2-bedroom rental and the equivalent to purchase. So if you're looking at a 2-bedroom, here's the average Denver market rent. Here's what that would translate into in purchasing power. And then here's what it looks like over time. So if you were to rent 3 years out, you are better off renting and investing the funds. 5 years out, you can see that the table flips a little bit. That's where owning makes sense by a little more than $3,000 in total wealth created. And then 7 years out, that's when you start seeing the big impact, and that separation will grow and grow and grow. So I think what we're starting to see here is a pattern of short-term, potentially renting, long-term, where you start to see appreciation, pay down of the balance. Then it makes a lot of sense. A 3-bedroom, on average, is going to cost you $2,100 a month to rent. If we translate that to a mortgage payment, it's going to buy you a $331,000 home. If you were to buy this, put minimum down, here's what it looks like over time. 3 years, renting makes more sense. 5 years, you're $7,000 ahead, roughly. 7 years, you're essentially doubling your money if you buy, opposed to taking this money and putting it in some sort of investment, making 7% per year. And then, say a 4-bedroom in the Denver metro area is going to cost you $2,461 on average. It's going to get you just a touch under $390,000 for a price point. Renting versus owning, 3 years in, renting is going to make more sense. 5 years out, 7 years out, that's where you start seeing some really substantial gains here versus renting. And again, we're just looking at sheer wealth gain. Set it, forget it. make your mortgage payment, and kind of what does that mean 7 years out as far as wealth you've built or created in the home compared to renting. So I would say in summary, from a numbers perspective, you're not going to see a whole lot of traction with owning immediately, but in time, definitely makes a lot of sense.
As you can see in the numbers, the benefit of home ownership is really a no-brainer. In my opinion, owning real estate and owning it sooner rather than later, almost regardless of where the market's at, is optimum. What I mean by that, the biggest wealth gainer in the whole equation is the amortization, where you're paying the balance down on a consistent basis, building equity, and almost like a forced savings plan. So that, combined with the appreciation in the market, and then any other value you add along the way, so home improvements, etc., is really where you'll create enough wealth in there that'll essentially change your life and your financial position. And the sooner you can begin doing that, the better. Again, Michael Shotnick here. If I can be of assistance, feel free to reach out via phone or email. Thank you.